It's time for another episode of Love, Marriage, and Fantasy. I am Star Claiborne.
And I am Anton Leonard Claiborne, and we are your global relationship strategists.
We live our marriage on the guided principle no one or no thing.
So, take some time, listen as we make sense of all of this.
Okay, everyone, we are back with a new episode of Love, Marriage, Fantasy. And in this episode, we are going to address a question that came up in our Sunday Q&A Coach for a Day in the VIP group that I have just for women. So I would love to have Mr. Claiborne chime in on this so we can get some feedback from some men as well. And also for all the men out there listening, we want you to drop some comments too. So the question was, married yet separated, is that fair game for someone else to come in?
Okay, Star, so that's a really good question. And I do want to know, did anybody comment?
I did.
You commented. Okay, well, what did you comment? Do you want to share your comment?
Sure. My comment was that I'll just give you an overall response to it instead of reading the entire response.
Okay.
But the overall answer and response to this was yes, based on the terms that are provided by the couple who is actually separated, right? So you have this married couple, they decide they want to separate. It is up to them to decide during the separation whether or not they're going to be with other people. However, on a personal note, the question would be, one, do you really trust what this person is telling you, that you're not actually jumping in and adding more damage to the separation if they're trying to work on themselves personally, right? What this person could be telling you may not be the truth. So it's how well do you really know this person and how much do you trust the response? Right. And then two, I personally am not a big fan of separation. So for me, it's if we're separated, but we're still married, then there's the intention that we're working on trying to be back together.
Right.
If you tell me that you're married and separated versus I'm married, but I'm getting ready to divorce, those are two totally separate things. You telling me you're about to divorce your wife means, okay, you're going through that phase and you know this is completely over. You telling me that the two of you are separated, to me, I'm feeling like, okay, yes, it's fair game for me to come in and be with you if I want to, based on the fact that you both said that that's okay. But at the same time, your intentions are still there to be with her.
Mm-hmm.
So the short answer is yes, it's fair game because they're separated and that's the decision that they made when they separated. But at the same time, think about how you would feel if it was a separation and you're potentially trying to get back with this person, how would you feel if it were you?
Okay. I can see where you're coming from. My thinking from the perspective of someone who's asking for the separation because they feel there are sexual things that they need to explore. If it's that type of person who's asking for this separation, they're going to try to continue to have sex with their spouse
Hmm.
and
And others.
explore, their sexual curiosities with other people. There's nothing wrong with that, as long as both of them agree to that.
Right.
The thing that could cause a problem though is when the spouse the person who they're married to, when that person wants to spend time with the other one who asked for the separation,
right,
but then that person says, well, I have a date tonight, then the problem is going to rise up. Because I can clearly see the spouse who's asking for some personal time getting upset because I had you. They would be thinking along these lines. I had you first. So being that we're still married, when I ask for personal time, I should get my personal time.
So do you feel like if that separation happens and they say, okay, yes, it's cool, we can do whatever because we're separated, that the spouse should still have first priority no matter what? Even if they've already planned something, they still should have first priority and say forget the other person that they've made these plans with?
I do feel that way. Yes, I do. Do I think that it would happen? No. But I do feel that the spouse should have first priority because
Why?
they are still married.
But they decided that they could be with other people.
Yes, they did. But because they are still married, your first obligation is to make sure that your spouse is happy.
But so if then you could easily
go ahead. So then in that situation, the person who asks for the separation, they could easily call their other partners and say, I need to set up a schedule, or I need to have a schedule for when I can see y'all. And so then that way, if his spouse asks for some personal time, he'll be able to say, okay, I'm good on, or I'm free on this day, or that day. You choose which of these days you want us to be together. Now, if she just happens,
to spouse?
Yes, saying that to the spouse. Hold on, okay. But now, if she just happens to ask him on the day that he has already made plans with somebody else,
right? That's what I'm referring to.
That a simple solution to that would be just to spend a few quality hours with her, so he could then, or she, whoever, so that they can then go be with their other partners. The point I'm making is, because y'all are still married, your first obligation should be to make sure your spouse is happy.
So then what is the separation for?
I just gave you the example. in this case, the spouse that asked for the separation, right, was asking for the separation to explore sexual curiosities. If the separation was requested based off of some insecurities that person may have, or let me not say insecurities, but uncertainties that they may have about being married, then I don't think that they should try to continue to have sex.
I agree. But will they? More than likely. In the beginning, they probably will. I don't know. I've never been through a separation, but.
Well, I think the woman would be the determining would be the one who determines whether or not the sexual activities are going to continue. I really do. No matter how good the sex may be, I think the woman will be the one who decides whether or not the sex is going to continue. Because women tend to take, and I say that because women tend to take marriage more seriously than men. And so, because women invest, all of their blood, sweat, tears, heart, mind, body, and soul into a marriage, she's going to be a little bit more, involved in making sure she gets what she wants out of this separation. I mean, she's not involved. She's going to be a little bit more determined to make sure she gets what she wants out of this separation. And so, with that in mind, if the idea of them continuing to have sex comes up, she's going to be the one to decide whether or not it happens.
I can agree with that. I can definitely agree with that. But why ask for a separation and why not just let go?
That's a good question. I think people don't let go because they feel like they don't want to lose everything that they have built with their spouse. When people find themselves in that type of situation where they're not sure if they want to continue, they're afraid that if they say I'm done, they're going to lose everything that they've invested into the marriage.
Speaking of investing, something just came up in my mind. I was having a conversation with, this may take a little bit of a turn from the original, but I was having a conversation with someone today, and she advised me, well, she told me that she was asking her partner different questions, and one of the questions was about him seeing her or her being with someone else. And his response was he wouldn't want to, let me see, how does she put it? He would not want the investment that he's made in her, meaning how he's built her up, so to speak, for someone else to benefit off of his investment, basically, is what his response was.
Okay, wait. So when she said seeing her with someone else, did she mean seeing her having sex with someone else, or her being in a relationship?
Moving on from one another, because they're at that point where we don't know, right? Well,
right.
I have my opinions, but I don't know the facts. But they're at that point. They just don't know. And so these questions are coming up, and that investment came up about he doesn't want to see anyone else benefit off of his investment that he's made in her.
Okay. So was he saying, I'm fine with you seeing someone else, I just don't want to know about it? Or was he saying, I don't think I can handle seeing you with someone else?
I don't think I can handle seeing you with someone else. He basically feels as though
he's
put all this energy into her to make her who she is. And so now he doesn't want anyone else to benefit from, I will say, supposedly the good person that she is, that he says that he invested in and built, but yet not 100% in on. It's kind of
well, if it's the man that's as a as a person who's been in a relationship with someone who was separated from their spouse, I can speak on this and say with confidence, if he says that if the man says he can't handle seeing his wife with a different man, but he's requesting the separation, they would be better off. I mean, he would be better off requesting an open relationship.
That's what I said. I agree.
Instead of a separation.
Because you still have that person there.
Yes, with the open relationship, they're still together, but they have agreed to date other people. That will allow them to, allow whoever requested the separation time to, see if they still have interest in other people. It doesn't necessarily mean they're going to have sex with those other people unless that is something they agree to do. Even then, I think their situation should be like the separation that I was involved in, where she lived in the house and the man went and got his own apartment. So he was able to spend time with the women he wanted to see. She was able to spend time with me, and there was no issues.
Well,
but they were not in an open relationship. They were separated from their marriage, but they had agreed that they would see other people. I think what a lot of people struggle with is embracing their sexual interest. I think that when you're not sure of what you like to do sexually, yet you find yourself in a committed relationship where you haven't expressed your sexual desires, you then are walking around with all these pent up emotions, all of this suppressed, all of these suppressed thoughts and desires. We all know eventually anything that you try to bury in within yourself, it's going to come out in one way or another. So when you have people who haven't embraced their sexuality, getting married to someone who has embraced their sexuality, and they're trying to get the one person who's suppressing their sexual interest to open up and reveal what's really within them. You could find a situation where you have some people who want to be separated, during their marriage, because the one person who's sexually open and free, they're like, "What's wrong with you?" They're asking their spouse, "What's wrong with you? What's going on?" But the other person who's suppressing their feelings, they don't know how to open up, so they just say, "I need some time to myself," or "I don't know what's going on. I just need some space." But all along, it could really just be about sex. They just don't know how to express it. So then they ask for the separation, and then all of a sudden, you see them with these different people that they're out there fucking. And so, we find ourselves at another discussion point on sex and how it, how not discussing it can cause a lot of problems in your marriage.
I would agree to that. Because, like you said, if they're suppressing all of that, the first thing they're going to want to do during the separation is just go be free.
Right.
They're going to feel like just really being free and releasing and just not necessarily doing whatever, whenever, however, but it could get to that if that's how long they've been suppressing it, of course, but they definitely are going to be on some, I just want to release.
Right.
And instead of expressing that in the marriage with their partner, now they're having this issue where they're separated and that's what they want to do.
Right. When, but instead of asking for the separation, the only thing they would have to do is just tell their partner, these are things that I want to do, but I don't think you can satisfy these desires for me. After saying it like that, their partner then knows what's going on, and they can decide if they want to try to satisfy those desires or open the door up for, an open relationship. The idea of an open relationship, even still, in 2020, it still makes people uncomfortable. Only because no one wants to be seen as the slut. In the case of a woman, or as a man, he doesn't want to be seen as the dog that's out there sleeping around with all these different people.
Right, but I think even for myself, being in an open relationship, it would go beyond what people are thinking, right?
Are you talking about emotionally with you?
Yeah, it's
okay.
Thinking about, I mean, there's so much, you talk about all these STDs out there, like, you don't know what your partner is going to do when they're not with you. You don't know if they're going to abide by what you agreed to, right? Like,
right.
You get into this open relationship and it's like, okay, yeah, so we're going to go be with other people. It's okay that we have sex with other people. It's okay that we do this because this is what we want to explore. But you have to use protection. You can't guarantee that person is going to do that. Now, don't get me wrong. Not saying that even if you don't open up to an open relationship, they're not going to go cheat on you anyway and still not use protection. You may have a better chance if you really want to do an open relationship of just saying, okay, go, before they actually cheat, because then you're going to have a problem. But then at the same time, genuinely, people do just want one partner. One partner. That's who they want to have their relationship with and be with, regardless of anything anyone says, regardless of thinking about any sexually transmitted diseases. For me, it's always been one partner. That's who I've wanted. I've always wanted to have that one person in my life. Yes, we change as we get older. We get introduced to things. You become, you can either grow to have more of an open mind or more of a closed mind, right? Mm-hmm. And then you also become this person too, where you're like, you know what? There's nothing that anybody's going to say to change the way that I feel because I know me and I know what I want. However, right now you know what you want, but if you have ever wanted to explore the idea of an open relationship, I do feel as though people shouldn't be so closed off to it just because of what other people are going to say, especially women, because unfortunately men are not. I know you say that they're put out there like that, but they're not put out there as deep as women are when it comes to having multiple partners, right? Like women are just called every name in the damn book, period. And I don't think anyone, male or female, should have to even think about what they're going to be called because they're doing whatever is going to make them happy at the end of the day.
Right, they shouldn't be concerned about what other people are going to say.
I don't think it's a matter of am I opposed to an open relationship or what my true opinion is. It's our goal, you and I both, is to make sure the whole thing that we've always said is we want to help people and we want people to do what's going to make them happy.
Right.
And if that means that you're going to have an open relationship, go have an open relationship. Right? But I think that is something that could cause a separation.
It absolutely is. That should definitely be addressed when the idea of separating from your marriage comes up. If the question needs to be asked, are you asking for a separation because you want to go out and have sex with other people? maybe not so bluntly, but it needs to be asked.
No, I think bluntly.
Well, some people. The thing is,
a
person.
Direct.
Yes, I agree. You do have to be very direct, but we have to also remember a person who has been suppressing their sex drive. When asked, do they want to go out and have sex with other people? It's going to be difficult for them to answer that question honestly because they've been suppressing their sexual desires for years, centuries. So it's not going to be so very. It's not going to be very.
The question.
You should not. you should not sugarcoat the question. You should address it though in a non-threatening manner. So that way, the person who is requesting this separation, if that is what they're trying to do, it'll be a little bit easier for them to admit that's what they're trying to do.
Or you then will be able to find out that that's been the issue all along.
Well, yeah, that would be the purpose of answering the question. And now you have
a much deeper conversation about it, that maybe they won't want to go out there and even have that time.
Yeah, that is absolutely possible. But that's why I said the question must be asked, regardless of how you, not regardless of how you ask it, because you should try to be if you know your partner,
okay,
you'll know when they start
into consideration.
Right. You'll know when they starting to feel a little bit uncomfortable. So, you don't want to turn this discussion into an interrogation. Right. You don't want to turn it into an interrogation. So all of that needs to be taken into effect. When that conversation begins, both of them need to say, we are not here to argue. We're here to have a mature discussion on the reason why the separation has been requested.
And how we're going to work the separation.
Right, and how we're going to work it.
Even though you're separated, you're still together and you're working it together to respect each other. Because again, a separation in my mind is we have intentions of getting back together. Whatever that separation is, it doesn't matter. Your intentions are to get back together if you're just going to separate. If there are any couples that have separated and that was not your intention, please comment below. Comment below this podcast because we want to know. I've never been separated. This is my first marriage and plan to take it to the end. So if there are any couples who have gone through a separation and that wasn't your intention, then please comment below. And when I say your intention, I mean genuine. We know that there are some people who say, yes, I want a separation, and you're not, you're lying because you really want a divorce. There are couples out there who are just going through the motions, right? We're not talking about that. Okay? If you're separated and you really want a divorce, you're divorced. I don't care about married, but separated, you're married and getting divorced. You're just not saying the word divorce. But when you say you're genuinely married and separated, to me, that definitely means we have the intention of coming back together and making this work. There are some things that need to be worked out first.
I would like to add, if you are separating with the intention of getting back together, it would be a good idea to put a time stamp on this separation. There's no reason you should be separated from your marriage for 5 to 10 years. That's a divorce.
That is a divorce.
So I think a timestamp should be put on this separation, so both of you will know when that period is over. We're going to come back to the discussion table and talk about the next phase of our marriage. The next phase of our journey. Is it going to be a marriage or is it going to be a divorce?
Yeah, and I think, like you said in the beginning when you were talking about the schedules and, making your spouse the first priority, I will say I disagree when it comes to, you calling me and saying, hey, I want some of your time and I've already made plans. I'm not going to, I'm not going to break my plans if we're separated with this other person. And, it's a high possibility that I'm not going to just make time earlier in the day to spend with you because I already have made plans. right? Because we separated, so we don't have to make each other, first priority. That's my opinion, though. But I will say this: that if you're separated with the intention of getting back together, that you should, just like when you mentioned making a schedule with the other people, well, they should be on a schedule too. You should intentionally have your time together still, where it's no sexual contact, right? No sex, but time for you all to really just have that time in those moments together, right? And it may start off with it being once a month because you're separated. You clearly don't want to see each other 3-4 times a week. That would defeat the whole purpose of the separation to begin with, right? So you've got to find that time frame between seeing one another that's going to allow you to really accomplish what you're trying to accomplish in this separation, but yet still be able to have some time with one another.
I think that's a good idea. One other thing that we should mention in addition to what we've already said is the children. If there are children involved, young children, the time that's spent with the children is going to be very important to the stability of the household.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
as you're talking about this separation, you've got to talk about how the children are going to continue to get their quality time with the parents. So with that in mind, you could say on the days when we're doing our family outings or, we're coming together as a family, those could be the days that we come together and do our sexual thing as well.
Yes.
That's something that could be discussed. So that way the children will not feel neglected, and the spouse who wants to continue to be sexual will still be able to get that sexual connection without interfering with the schedule of the spouse who requested the separation. We don't want to neglect the children during the marriage separation. They should not feel a severe impact from this separation.
Absolutely not.
Okay, so if you know someone who's experiencing a separation from their marriage, share this podcast with them. We've mentioned some really good suggestions that could help someone move through a marriage separation with good results.
Absolutely. And also, if you're even thinking about doing a separation, before that happens, you can also reach out to us and we offer a marriage assessment.
Yes, we do offer a marriage assessment.
That will help you. It definitely will bring up some unspoken things and unspoken concerns that may not be addressed on either of you or your partner's behalf. So the marriage assessment is a great way, and also, like you said, anyone who is experiencing separation, being able to navigate through that with a positive outcome.
Yes, you would, because we'll explore things from your past and future concerns. So that way you'll be able to look at the past, look at the future, and bring all of that together and discuss it with this present situation. In addition to that, we also have our coaching for couples that would be helpful if the two of you are considering coming back together after this separation. That's something that will be beneficial for you because it will help you all to bring some things to the table that you probably did not discover about yourself during the separation, or things that you did discover about yourself during the separation. So our 12-week coaching program for couples would be excellent if you find yourself in a marriage separation, but the two of you are coming back together to continue the journey. All right, so do you have anything else you want to add, sir?
Nope. We would just love to hear your comments and share the podcast.
Share this podcast with anyone you think will benefit from it. You should actually share this podcast with anyone you know who's considering getting married. Right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, because the marriage separations can just pop up out of nowhere. Okay. We hope we said something. We hope that we have said something that helps you. We'll talk to y'all next time. That wraps it up for another episode of Love, Marriage, and Fantasy.
Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel at Claiborne Coaching. Download the podcast, Love, Marriage, and Fantasy, and look us up on Facebook at Claiborne Coaching.
All right, so we'll see you next time.